winner here. Remember, the winner of this will go on to play Brian Braunduin in our top 4. And as you said here, is Richard Shay with quite the resume on the weekend with Bug Delver.
8-0 in the Legacy portion of our Invitational. But again, if you think of Rich Shay and the people watching at home, the reason you may be familiar with the name is due to his vintage play. One of the best vintage players in the world. Again, those skills do translate pretty well over to Legacy. And he is doing a really, really nice job this weekend.
And this is a very vintage-esque top 8. And when I say that, I mean, okay, so you have your control deck, which is Miracles. You have your, at tempo decks, which are Delver. And it's all these different archetypes, but they all have like a 25 card overlap to them. Everything's blue. Your control is blue, your aggro is blue, your tempo is blue. That to me, I mean, we're not time walking. We're not playing Moxen. It's definitely different than vintage, but where it's like every deck can play all roles, that to me seems like a vintage sort of thing.
So one of the things I'm actually looking at here is Shay's deck list. And the numbers of the cards and all that stuff is great, but what I'm actually looking at is the DCI number, which is not very many digits, which is
6?
awesome. I believe it's 51005.
I thought it was only 4 or 6. Maybe 5-digit ones exist. I know back in the day, and I've seen some of these, you'd get a 4-digit DCI number. And this is when if you read the Duelist, you'd have to send out a subscription and payment to the Duelist's Convocation, and they would mail you a physical like credit card thick DCI lifetime membership card.
Really?
Yeah, one of my friends has one.
Okay,
it's great.
I've never seen one before.
Yes,
I've never seen one.
What was it? Steve Port has one of these.
Okay,
a tournament
okay.
organizer.
Yeah,
He's
gotcha.
been playing for quite a while. Yes, they're big, thick plastic things, and it says you have good standing as a lifetime member of the Duelist's Convocation. They are great.
Really cool. Actually, I did not even know that was a thing. Shay's been around a while, too, so not too surprised to see the shorter DCI number for him. Chen going to lead off here in game number 3 with an Underground Sea into a Deathrite Shaman. So the acceleration is here. He's going to fire away very quickly with a Verdant Catacombs.
So you have 10 or 8 for DCI number. That's the big one. 10, the switch from 8 to 10 was sometime, I want to say, around Ravnica.
I have 8.
Okay.
I'm old school.
Ish. I know, I have 8. I'm like, I don't have the 10th one. Then I see like Richard Shay's, and I'm like, oh, just kidding.
Not old school enough, but got an activation of Deathrite Shaman here. Maybe a Liliana, a True Name Nemesis. So Chen says, let's go. You better have the answers, and you better have them now.
Yeah, and this is something that the Bug Delver decks can do that the Rug ones can't. And, they have a Birds of Paradise effect in their deck. They can just ramp out some threats.
Shay taking a look at his hand to see if he has maybe a Forcible or some way to get True Name Nemesis off the board. As we are being told right now, Death and Taxes does get the job done over Rug Delver. So Jason Smith is moving on to play against Jonathan Morris. Defeating Jonathan Morris. He's going to be playing Jason Mitchell in the top 4.
4 Delver decks lost in the top 8. Every losing deck was Delver, but that may be a function of the fact that almost every deck was Delver.
Yeah, 6 of them are Delver, so I suppose that does have to happen.
It'd be interesting to see Death and Taxes and Miracles meet in the finals, and you could be like, yeah, Delver didn't do well in this top 8. It went 0-6 in matches.
I would be surprised if that's the case.
Yeah, me as well.
Here's a brainstorm from Shay. 3 cards coming. He's got some catching up to do, though.
Yeah, and this is interesting. Like, we saw a very positional matchup between Miracles and Blue-White Red Delver, but when you see Delver decks play against each other, the strategy just really changes. It stops being positional play and is all about tempo and really board presence. Right now Chen has 3 mana. He has 2 creatures on the battlefield. He is up a lot on Richard Shay, and he's just going to continue to press that advantage.
Shay with the bevy of cards in his hand right now. He's still got to put 2 back, figure out how he wants to move forward in this game, because again, he's already underneath some pressure. A couple of copies of Abrupticate in his hand, which are oftentimes quite good in the matchup, but not great right now. You also see a Sylvan Library that he's going to put back first and then land second. So it looks like he's deciding, I don't really have much time for Sylvan Library. Shay going to draw a card. This is going to be an Underground Sea. Let's see if he wants to go fetching here.
Yeah, so looking at Richard Shay's deck, you have to ask how many answers does he actually have to a card like True Name Nemesis?
The big one, of course, is Golgari Charm. There are 2 of those in the sideboard. I have to imagine they're in his deck after board just because True Name Nemesis does exist. Shay going to fire off an Abrupt Decay here to get that Deathrite Shaman off the table.
All right, so one of the threats down. So now that there's some parity, Chen is still on the play, and he still has a True Name Nemesis, so definitely advantage. But we'll see if he can continue to press it. He has to keep the pressure up in this sort of matchup.
Liliana the Veil is an out right now for Shay as well, especially with Chen not making a play. So it feels like to me Chen is pretty all in here on Trinity Nemesis getting the job done. Shay looks like he may play a Wasteland, and he does. He's going to fire that off, take care of the Underground Sea, see if he wants to deploy the library or not. It looks like he may have just passed the turn. Actually, it looks like Chen did float some blue, so we're going to have a brainstorm here, it looks like.
Yeah, what this actually helps Shay do is if he wants to resolve a card like Tarmogoyf, he's successfully played around days by first wasting Chen off his only island.
Chen going to have to put 2 cards back here in just a moment. And those 2 are back from Brainstorm. We'll see if Shay would like to progress, and he does, and this is a Tarmogoyf. So we will get the size check on this in just a moment for you guys. Looks like it's just going to be a 2-3 at this point. Instance and lands in the bin. But actually, I believe there's a Deathrite Shaman hanging out, so.
Yeah, that said, Jeffrey Chen continues to make dents into Shay's life total. That swing of True Name Nemesis puts Shay down to 13. He's going to have to find an answer to that true name somewhat soon. I don't think he's in a position where he can race it.
Time for a brainstorm.
And a lot of good cards in Shay's hand. And I think were it not for the True Name Nemesis on the board, Shay would be up in this match. Right now, he's controlling the pace. You know, he's the player cracking Wastelands. He has pretty much better cards in his hand at this point. But there is still that pesky 3-1. It's right now representing a 5-turn clock. It's probably more like a 4-turn clock. I don't think Shay can actually not crack fetch lands for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's got to keep just putting things on the board. I think we'll get to the point here actually where Chen actually has to slow down and use Trinity Nemesis as a blocker instead of an attacker. I know that's not the situation Chen wants to get himself into, but I think that's where he may find himself.
That's the best way right now for Shay to answer the True Name Nemesis, is to just push enough damage that he flips the race in the other direction.
Shay does deploy Deathrite Shaman before cracking the fetch line. He's going to go down to 12, so in theory he's on a 4-turn clock right now. 4 hits from that 3-power Trinity Nemesis. He's going to go get another copy of Underground Sea, and let's see what he does want to follow up with, assuming there will be a follow-up.
Yeah, cracks for another sea. We'll look at it.
Looks like it's a Delver. All right, so he wants to get him dead, straight up.
He wants to turn the race around, and he started at a disadvantage in this race too. He would, he was at 13 when Chen was still at 19.
Yeah. Chen going to sacrifice a fetch land here, go get an Underground Sea of his own, and we'll see if maybe there's an Abrupt Decay to be fired off here in just a moment.
Yeah, unclear whether or not Delver is still on the stack or whether it's in play. Shay has not gone for the card out of his sideboard, so I'm going to go ahead and presume this is on the stack. We'll see what Chen does.
Yeah, we'll see maybe a little more shuffling going to take place here before presenting the deck over.
Yeah, could be, say, something like a hard cast Daze. He certainly has a lot of ways to answer this spell.
Yep.
If he has Abrupt Decay, I imagine it won't hit Delver. It'd be interesting whether he chooses Goyf or Deathrite. Probably will hit Goyf with it.
He's certainly going to have a response here, at least something to do on the end of turn. That much is clear. So we'll see what Jeffrey Chen does want to do in just a moment. Last match of our quarterfinals right here. Again, we'll be announcing our premium winner in just a little bit. We know 3 players that are through. Brian Brondwin, along with Greg Mitchell and Jason Smith. We got to get 1 more, however. Now here's a brainstorm. So a couple of cards going to be added here to Chen's hand. The tide may be turning here in favor of Shay, who went 8-0 during the legacy portion of the Season 2 Invitational. Unfortunately for him, a 3-5 record in Standard, a format he does admit is his weakest, stopped him from having a great weekend. And he's doing pretty gosh darn good here, able to make the top 8 and looking in pretty good position here against Jeffrey Chen in game number 3.
Yeah, Chen looking for some answers, be it counter magic, perhaps removal spells. He just needs to slow Shay down. He wants to keep enough of Shay's things off the board that he can keep swinging True Name Nemesis. Remember, Delver doesn't have the combo of True Name plus equipment, so he can't just assemble a Voltron and get Richard that way. It looks like Delver's going to resolve. And no removal spell on the end there for Chen, so everything's on the board for Shay. And I think most important, Jeffrey didn't really use any of his mana. He used 1 of his 2 mana last turn, but he didn't use any of his mana to progress the board. And that's where this matchup is fought.
He's not being very efficient right now, I think is the big deal. This is going to be a Verdant Catacombs. Now, for some reason, the card that's jumping in my head is a card, Toxic Deluge. But I don't think he even has that. Like, he might be trying to set him up for that. and clear everything off the table, but I don't even think he has one of those.
Yeah, Toxic Deluge is something you see out of Control-esque decks. You see it in Esper Deathblade a lot on the board, but I think because he's playing true names of his own, he has opted away from the Deluge. He could... Sometimes you'll see something like a Diabolic Edict, perhaps, but he actually doesn't have anything on his board that answers a true name outside of the Golgari Charms.
Well, there's a Ponder. So 1, 2, and 3 in just a moment. See if Chen can find anything to help here. Starting to really get behind on the board. But that Trinity might have to put the brakes on here. I know Chen wanted to try to aggro him out, and he had a pretty aggressive draw. Turn 1 Death Right to turn 2 True Name, but Shay has done a really nice job of catching up and putting some pressure on. And if that Delver flips next turn, things get really hairy, but Chen says, no, I'm still attacking. You're going to go down to 9, Rich.
Yep, hits Rich down to 9, and he's going to start losing this race. We'll see if he can turn it around. If that Delver flips, it's a real big swing for Richard. He already has 4 off the Goyf, 2 off the Death Right. That's 6. So it's either 7 or 9 on this turn.
Shay with the Delver trick on the stack looks like he wants to cast a Brainstorm, and he does. So he wants to ensure that this is going to flip. So 3 cards coming here for Rich.
Might as well take all the chance out of this.
See Submerge among the options here for Rich. Looks like he has 2 copies of Submerge in his hand, so don't play a creature that can be submerged, Jeffrey, or you're going to be stuck there for a while.
Yeah, what Jeffrey's going to look for is removal. If he can remove the Goyf, at this point, he'd have to remove everything to win the race, and I think that's the difficulty. If Richard gets this 9-point swing in, the race, Chen will be far enough behind that, yeah, he'll need double, probably triple removal spell to win the race. A lot of good weapons here. I don't know if Shay needs both submerges.
Yeah, I'm not sure he needs both either.
I think if at all possible, he'd like to not show a submerge. He'd like to show a different instant. We'll see what he picks. Yeah.
Him and Torax fine.
That one's fine to show. He's not going to cast it.
We don't think so. I mean, he could have with Delver if he wants to. I don't know how important him is right now.
I feel like at this point, the game, it's so much in a racing position that playing something that you need to play everything that affects the board.
Like a Tarmogoyf?
Yeah, Goyf's great.
Maybe that'll slow old True Name down.
If Jeffrey had a card that Richard really needed to get out of his hand, Jeffrey probably would have already cast it. You know, Abrupt Decay is, for example, one of the best cards that Chen could have, but there's no reason he'd be sitting on one.
And he can't even cast one now because he's brainstorming in response to this Tarmogoyf, so he's only got 1 mana available with the Bayou. He's going to have to put 2 cards back, so something is coming through here. And Tarmogoyf is good.
So despite all the power that you get from playing 1-mana blue cantrips, you see that Chen has basically spent all his turns cantripping. He hasn't done anything to the board. Last turn he had 2 mana. His only play was a Brainstorm. This turn he had 3 mana. He had Ponder and Brainstorm. Didn't use the 3rd mana. He hasn't actually cast anything, if you think about like something that does something for 3 turns.
Yeah, just a lot of cantripping, but hasn't really done anything of consequence. He's going to start this turn by playing a Tropical Island. But he's at 6. This is another copy of True Nemesis, but as I mentioned, I think the brakes may be on. Yep, and they are.
Yes.
Remember, that one doesn't stop the flyer.
Doesn't stop the flyer, doesn't stop the Death Right. Chen is still going to be down to 1 on this turn.
So an Abrupt Decay was the draw here for Shay, along with 2 copies of Submerged in his hand. And figure out how he can finish off Chen. He's mighty close. In we go for 3. And now Chen is going to go down to 3.
Chen's going to have to win on this next turn. Death Right Shaman will outright kill him, along with basically everything else that Shay's doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how he pushes 3 more damage. That's pretty tough. He's not playing Rug Delver. He can't just draw to that Lightning Bolt.
Chen going to play another land. It's a Bayou. That's an okay. That's a way to change it up a little bit there. But I think Shay has an Abrupt Decay in the hand, so I don't think this is going to change too much. In we go. Rich is going to reach Swords and Mana. Yep, that one's uncounterable. That's an extension of the hand. Richard Shay is going to win this match over Jeffrey Chen. He's moving on with Bug Delver to the semifinals. He couldn't get it done in the Invitational due to his poor standard record, but he can really do it in Legacy.
So by the time Jeffrey Chen finally finds a card to play on the board, and it's a good card, it's Umezawa's Jite, but it is still too little too late. By the time he got his Voltron together, Shay had the answer and was able to push it across.